Hello there, it's Lisa Starr with another episode of StarrCast. We have a really good topic today that I think most wellness people or consumers in general can relate to. You're probably listening to this podcast on a platform where you often listen to music, whether it's Spotify or Amazon. And music is something that is, the universal language, right? We all respond to it. We know what we like. It evokes feelings and memories in us, whatever our age group, wherever in the world we're from. It really is such a universal language. And so I'm really happy to invite a guest to speak with us today who's deeply connected to music, and especially as it relates to spa and wellness. Some of you were lucky enough to see him at the Global Spa Wellness Summit last year on stage. It's Freddie Moross. He is the CEO of Mind and the head of marketing for Myndstream. And it's a company, and he'll explain to you, that is bringing music into the spa and wellness sector. Freddie is joining us today from the UK. So thanks for being here, Freddie.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure, Lisa. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So to kick it off, I'd like to ask Freddie to describe to us his career journey so far, because it's an unlikely path, let me say, that brought him into the wellness world at the summit last year.
Absolutely. I started my career as an auditor and chartered accountant. So I went into the Big Four. I worked for PwC for a few years and cut my teeth doing auditing financial accounts, learning the sort of trades of a chartered accountant. And being in a Big Four corporate, you learn the value of mental health. That's for sure. It's sort of, it's an often spoken about component, but very rarely acted on. It's a very high pressure, high stress environment. And when you're training to do your studies at the same time as having to work long hours on client, just rinse and repeat billable work, it can get tough, and it can certainly be a sort of a very arduous cycle. So when I finally qualified and I was looking, at the next part of my journey, my family business, which has always been music for media, I saw it being finally the destination for where I wanted to go and start growing. And thankfully, they just taken a real interest in wellness, and there was an ability to align my individual passion for music as well as then something which was genuinely purposeful. And so for me, I needed to hear no more, and I jumped in head first, and I've been trying to swim ever since.
Oh, I think you're swimming quite well. So Cutting Edge Group creates music for media.
That's right. Yeah, they're the largest independent provider of music for film, TV, ads, games. They've been doing it for about 2 decades now, and they do about 150 soundtracks a year. They're a full music rights management business. So they go in, they even invest in certain productions, acquire the rights to provide the music, get a composer in, purchase the rights for that particular part of the music. The complexities of music licensing can get quite difficult and very long. There's a lot of contracting, and certainly one of their key value propositions as Cutting Edge Group is a detailed understanding of how to distribute, administer, and work with both sides of the publishing and masters within the music rights business. So we have these beautiful catalogs of very deep and diverse music across the film and TV. I mean, having collected quite a few decades worth of titles now, we have all these beautiful composers from Clint Martinez to Clint Mansell and all a host of others who've written music and for The King's Speech, Drive, Looper. I could list a lot. Bridgerton and Stranger Things are the more recent ones on Netflix. We're a preferred partner to Netflix and Amazon and all those sort of things. So the media music side has been the core principle, the pillar of where we do them. And kind of where we saw this alignment is we spent so long creating these, I call them music for moments on screen, essentially going in and scoring the emotion behind a scene, that we felt like actually you could turn that trade into curating music for experiences, and potentially you can unlock some of the value that music can have as a connector. And you beautifully put it as a universal language. And I think sometimes people underestimate the value music can have in particular situations. It's an incredible complementary component of therapies. And certainly as we've stepped really extensively into the spa world, you start seeing it. The value it can bring is just it's wonderful. It really is.
That's a great point you make when you think about especially film or visual media, and when you're watching a scene and the music that's created to fit it, really underscores the scene. And I notice that more when I've watched something 2 or 3 times, and then you see that part that the music plays that perhaps on the first watching it was just there supporting, but you weren't aware of it, and yet you try to imagine the scene without it, and it's not the same at all.
Some of the best music moments are ones where you don't even realize it's playing. It just becomes completely immersive, and that's when you sort of lose yourself in these particular things. Interestingly, I saw just last night on YouTube. I don't know if you've watched or if you're a big Star Wars fan, but I watched the latest series Kenobi on Disney Plus, and someone out there had sort of cut all of the Kenobi scenes with the original Star Wars music, which was unfortunately missing from this particular production. And I was scrolling through the comments. It was just unbelievable. They just said, how have the producers here missed this trick? It is so much more impactful with the original music. I mean, one of the great properties of music is the sort of ability to take someone back to a nostalgic moment. And what's more nostalgic than Star Wars,
right?
For many. And seeing those scenes with the original score under it, you just get lost in it, and it just has that. It's just that one little extra bit. That's that extra afterthought, which if you think about up front, it can change things very, very impactfully.
I think that's so fascinating that so many people noticed that the music was not the same as what was original, because to your point, right, it triggers that brain memory in you.
I was shocked. I mean, hundreds of thousands of views, and certainly as I was going through, I mean, YouTube, you can see all these top comments and how many people thumbs up them, and every single comment was about music, clearly, because this was a clip where the music was the priority. It had been recut to this music. But this is just one example of where, I mean, you look at Hans Zimmer and the work he's done within score music and how popular he is in a mass consumer field. I mean, often score music or soundtrack music, particularly when Cutting Edge got into the business, it was really not, I mean, it's not a glamorous part of the industry. It's very much the afterthought. It's where budget kind of went to die. No one ever has budget for the music, particularly the score music. You may pay for an original song here or there to do the end credits. At least this was how things were done back in the early 2000s. But no one thought anyone would want to consume score. If you want to listen to lyricless music, maybe you're a classical fan, and therefore you would only listen to Bach or Beethoven. But nowadays, there's a whole consumer group out there. I mean, I've got friends, and again, this is another bit of anecdotal conversation, but I've got friends who have encyclopedic knowledge of film score music, way better than mine. I mean, you'll start playing a song on the way back from my stag just a few months ago. We played score music from different things. There'll be someone in the front who'd play like a particular track, and you essentially do like a buzzer for a journey just to keep things a little bit lighthearted. And I can't tell, there was one guy in the back seat, he knew every single track, every composer, every film that it was accompanied to. And you just get these fans who are obsessive, and you would never ever think it, but there's a whole host of people out there who absolutely live for it. And in the right circumstances, it can be incredibly emotive, and it unlocks the memories without having to essentially have to rewatch the whole thing.
Well, on that note, then let's touch on the new medium, where I was amazed to see this. My son went to a concert at Carnegie Hall earlier this year, and when I asked him who it was, it's a group that makes music for video games. And the music is so highly regarded that now the group is out on tour. And I was stunned, like, what? But that's Carnegie Hall is no small potatoes, right? So that's a whole new market.
Absolutely. And video games, they're another distribution channel. We did the music for a big title, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then also for Cyberpunk 2077 and Red Dead Redemption in the space of a very small couple months. And they were some of our best performing soundtracks. This is the same sort of time we were releasing major motion pictures or major TV shows that were coming off Netflix, but they outperformed everything because you have these cult followers who are gaming long hour days and they live with the music. It becomes their And we'll touch on this later, I'm sure, when we start speaking about the wellness properties of music. But a lot of people use music to focus, and a lot of gamers are locked into a particular narrative for a long period of time, and the music that accompanies is their method of staying focused. It's an audio cue that allows them to stay present. And so when they then are away from the game, they want to try and focus, it's a very good way of getting back into it. So we saw incredible upticks in our stream count as a result of getting involved in video games. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a real community as well, which is always nice.
So you've had this music family business for a long time. How did the spark for Mind or Myndstream come about? Who had this great idea, and how did that come about?
Yeah, sure. So my father, Philip, is the founder of Cutting Edge, and he's been the chief executive for the last 20 years or so, as long as it's been around. And if you speak with him, you'll quickly realize he has got an incredible capability of seeing trends very early, sometimes too early, sometimes to a detriment. But he is a true visionary. Really, it really is incredible. And he started investing in mental health. At the same time, just before Calm started being built, he invested in a business called Happy Not Perfect. Saw the value that wellness could bring in a digital format, easily accessible at home through meditations, through affirmation guided programs, to try and help people with their own mental health journeys in their environment. That app's done fine. It's no Calm, but it had its place in the general market. And it kind of whet his appetite to understand more. And he waited a while to really find the right opportunity to jump in. And thankfully, about 3 years ago, in the beginning of 2019, we had the opportunity to acquire this catalog of music called Real Music. And we're an asset-based business. We like assets. We like assets with long-term annuities, like music, and we understand that part of the business. And what we tend to do is we focus on the asset first, and then try and exploit it to increase the value later, both in terms of impact, but also in terms of additional accretion of capital. So we look at both sides of the coin. But we start with the asset and where we can go. So all of a sudden, we had this opportunity to buy a catalog, which would get us into the market in a meaningful way, in a way which was understood to us. And so we jumped on it. We bought that catalog, and we didn't look back. So we rebranded that catalog, which was essentially, it had been around for about 40 odd years. It was a lot of the forefounders of the new age music movement. Some incredible artists. What we loved about it was, and this is what we look for in everything that we buy: highest quality in the market, very, very high quality production value, deep, diverse, stylistically, and artists who were living, breathing, delivering music for particular purposes all the time. And we love that. So we bought it and we rebranded it Myndstream. And then we made the mission music for personal well-being. And we started really going into the pandemic trying to say, okay, well, people at home listening to more music, more streaming, but also requiring a bit more pause, as it were, an ability to recharge, to focus, to sleep, to recover a bit, and focus. It was a huge sort of lift-off point for us. So we started working and leveraging our relationships with the various different digital streaming platforms like Spotify, like Amazon, as you mentioned at the very beginning of this, at the introduction. We increased our presence and the representation of those artists across those different platforms, and the market moved with us. Everyone started streaming music, and music as a whole, as an industry, grew fairly substantially. Wellness as an industry grew fairly substantially, particularly those which were accessible at home. And we were very lucky to sit at the intersection between the two. And I'd say we could smile and look like geniuses at this point, but really wasn't the case. We got very fortunate with our timing, and credit to Philip for waiting for so long. Philip being my father. Credit to him for waiting so long, getting his timing right. But yeah, we really benefited off the movement, and as a result of that, we've grown that catalog of music by about 400% over the course of the last 3 or so years, and now we have our initiatives in place to take it to the next level, which is where I'm really excited. So you mentioned Myndstream, Mind Group. So Myndstream is the essentially the catalog business. That's the brand that we associate with all of our high quality mood music, for lack of a better word. Mind Group, which is the business that I chief executive, is essentially attempting to take those assets and deliver them to different demographics who rely on music, and provide them with the best quality music possible through our own distribution channels.
Okay. Well, thank you for all of that clarification. It's great to understand what's behind it. So you have this catalog of an asset that you realize it's appropriate for this wellness market, which is burgeoning at the time. Did you listen to this music yourself, Freddie? Was this music that you were familiar with?
Absolutely, focusing was a huge part. I mean, I'm not. At the time, I didn't realize the value music can have for sleep, so I didn't use it for my own sleep. I'm a relatively good sleeper, which is very fortunate. So I've never actually had to seek out any of those sort of supports. But for focus, I've very much struggled to. Particularly when I was younger, I very much struggled to focus for long periods of time on a single piece of work. So I would always be trying to find the best quality focus music I can, trying to figure out ways to relax. I would actually describe myself, prior to doing a lot of research and starting to open my mind to it, I would describe myself as a wellness skeptic, someone who didn't really understand the value wellness could bring to your own life. Someone who always thought of, oh, I'm too busy to do that, or I don't know how to do that, or whatever it may be. When anyone would bring up meditation and how valuable it was to them, I'd be like, well, that's for you, you're enlightened. I am not. I have no idea how to do it. And so for me, the advent of Headspace and Calm and making meditation more accessible to use at home, making it a little bit easier to start and try, it was a huge benefit to opening up the industry to me personally. And music specifically, I would always say is by far the best realization for myself of how I could consume wellness. It just had to it just took me understanding that music was actually a product of wellness, not just something I enjoy. It can actually be something I can rely on to make myself feel better. But I did a lot of it very subconsciously, more than anything. It's sort of one of those things where when you feel sad, you put on a playlist to make yourself feel a bit better, or when you're about to go on I always walk to work down this towpath next to the river, and I always have my music, which I put on start of every day, and it just gears me up ready to take on the day, no matter what I've got on. I always have particular playlists I play based on what I want to do that day, and I find that 30-minute walk completely life-changing, and I don't think I would have known that that's what I was trying to do unless I wouldn't have got the value out of it unless I realized that actually that walk is my concentrated 30 minutes of wellness. And so I now no longer schedule calls for that walk. I no longer I very much protect that time because it's my time. And I don't think I would have ever thought to do that unless I had entered into the wellness market. So very, very roundabout way of answering your question there. But yes, I am now I'm very much a user of music, and I certainly have benefited from it.
Well, good for us that we're benefiting too. I mean, perhaps your growing up in a music world made you more aware that music could tick some boxes that way, in terms of need. I really like the way Myndstream is organized around sort of an overall purpose, if you will. If you go to the website, and it's myndstream.com, you will see 5 sectors of types of music for focus, for meditation, for recovery, relaxation, and sleep. And then you choose among those 5, and there's enormous playlists. I mean, who was behind the thought process? Can you explain to us behind those 5 sectors or pillars, if you will?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And we call those our 5 moons, and they're what we use as our own baseline internally to essentially to actually create the music. We wanted, what we really wanted to do in our frontline A&R strategy is we wanted all of our music to be very intentional. We wanted to make sure that there was reasoning behind, there was design behind it. So for instance, how you compose a sleep song, it's very, very different to how you potentially would compose something to help someone recover or be active or relax or something like that. And even the stages of sleep very much vary based on what kind of music you use. And so we already had our own thought process, and our composers have their own thought process of how they write their music. And it's always been they refined their craft over many, many, many years, and we understood it through the distribution, how to get their sort of raw musical asset out to the main consumer. And as we started taking a step back and thinking about it, and we're like, okay, well, we have key wellness practices. We have things which we know people can rely on music at certain points. And we went through a few different brainstorming iterations of where does our music really fit in. And after a period of time, we refined it down to those 5. And ever since, they've kind of been our top level buckets. But if you dive in behind the scenes, behind the curtain a little bit, you'll find a lot more detail. So as an example, sleep, music for latency, to improve latency, to reduce the amount of time you actually takes falling to sleep. That's composed in a different manner to sleep for when you're in your light or deep stages of sleep. On the one hand, it's a sleep journey trying to bring the heart rate down to 60 beats per minute to match the tempo of the tracks, and that's more at the latency phase. Whereas in the latter half of the latter significant portion of your sleep phase, that's when we look to create essentially a blanket with the music. We look to try and ensure there's no distractions, there's no strange audio cues out of the blue which would cause arousal or wakefulness. So it goes a little bit further down below, but for us, for making it really simple to understand, to make sure that people kind of really got it quite quickly, we just kept it nice, simple. Here are 5, and then let's dive deep together type thing.
And what was the significance of the moon image? Was there a meaning behind that?
It's just something which spoke to us a little bit, to be honest with you. I mean, I would love to sit here and tell you a long story of why we came to it, but to be perfectly honest, it predates my time. I inherited the moons when I joined. But from my understanding of when we started speaking about the moons, it was, we were searching for something which we felt that credibly stood for our brand. That, when you look at the branding of Myndstream, and you'll see some beautiful imagery and pastels that we really feel accompany the music, the peaceful element of the music. And we felt that the natural ideations of moons and the ability to think of wellness practices in the format of moons, we just liked it. I think I may be completely wrong, and I might be getting a slap on the wrist from Darren, the guy who was there overseeing it all before I joined, for missing this particular part of it. But to my understanding, it was really just a happy coincidence that we founded upon something we felt really encapsulated who we are and what we want to stand for.
I like the synergy of the moon in the sense that the moon has different phases that are all good, but serve different purposes. And perhaps that's also the connection here behind this music. You said something earlier
that can I use that in the future?
Yes.
Can I use that one?
You can tell Darren that was your idea.
I'll tell Darren that one, and we'll try and use that one going forward. I'll let everyone know that I didn't have an idea, but Lisa kindly came in and consulted on our branding and provided us with real reason.
No problem. So I was thinking about your remark about keeping the music consistent. If you're in a spa setting and you are asked, it's very not often that you'd be asked what kind of music you want, but sometimes you'll have a classical playlist. And I find them very difficult because it's nice and soothing. And then, the jarring horns will come in or the loud percussion, and it's not consistent. It's, of course, I'm not knocking Bach or Beethoven, but it's not maybe what you want in that setting, the relaxation setting.
It's genuinely shocking to me how music is currently curated in the spa environment at large. And I say this at large because I know there are some people out there who do it absolutely brilliantly, and it's a really incredible component of the therapies they offer. But just to give you an example, we really dived into the spa environment, and we're really looking to improve the audio provided in a lot of spas. In the market research to understand how we can improve that, we conducted interviews, and we got to know how music is currently offered and when is it thought of in the journey, and how do the customers think about it. And I can't tell you the number of people who, first of all, as customers, said that they've experienced a spa therapy where ads started playing in the middle of their therapy. We had someone reach out to us who runs a spa in, I think it's in Minnesota, and they mentioned that one of their they were performing a massage, or one of their therapists was giving a massage, and in the middle of the massage, the music changed to a horror track. So someone just started screaming in the middle of a massage. So it's just, it baffles the mind that you, because I know how much care and detail. I mean, I went to, obviously we saw each other at Ice Bar in Vegas, and you see the attention to detail these people have as they think about, the feel, the look, the smell, how things resonate with the audience, the environment that they're within, the care they bring to their products, to their offerings, to their service is unbelievable. But for some reason, audio, it just always is the afterthought, and I have no idea why, because it's a critical component of setting your environment up correctly. And so the reason, which I would have imagined, and it must be, is either people don't have access to the right kind of music, or it's not affordable enough. And because people want to provide the best service. We know that people want to provide the best service possible. And so what we went out to do is, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, we have a very clear ownership of our rights structure. And one of the hardest things about music is licensing. People get caught up on licensing all the time, getting the rights correctly approved for use. If you're putting it in a spa, you have to have your right performance licenses so you can perform music. You have to make sure your mechanical licenses are correctly paid so that the artists are remunerated. All of this sort of stuff, and it can get an absolute headache if you are not in the business to monetize music, which if you're a spa owner, you shouldn't be in that business. That doesn't have to be your business. You don't have to go through that headache. So with our catalog, which is all already licensed, we thought, well, right now, most people are either delivering their music through a couple of different things. They're either got their personal streaming platform that they're using in their spa environment, which they're either free or a free version of it, or their premium version. Free version is the worst experience because that's when you get those ads,
right?
Which we're going to hopefully change. The premium version isn't correctly licensed for commercial use, so they either are aware of that or have that risk appetite. Either way, we believe that they potentially could be convinced to come to a better solution if it was correctly priced. Or the current offering is a music concierge service where you pay for someone who's relatively expensive to come in and curate a bespoke audio environment, build some playlists for you, and then they deliver them, and they port them in through whatever sound system you currently have. And that can be very expensive, particularly for the mid-market spas. We don't have necessarily a hotel attachment. Often this goes through the hotel's budget. So if they're not a spa associated to a hotel, it's rather difficult to afford. And then the middle ground is a business streaming platform, and probably the market leader is Soundtrack Your Business, and they have for $50 a month you can get 50 million plus tracks, and that's great. However, that is set up for retail environments and hotels, and it can be used by spas, and it has some mood music, but the playlisting isn't really sequenced or curated with any particular purpose or design. So when looking at this as a jigsaw, we were like, well, clearly we can go in and we can offer our much smaller catalog than 50 million, but I mean, you don't need 50 million tracks. You just need a few thousand very, very, very good ones, regularly updated, and built for specific purposes. So we built those playlists. We built them for, so they're searchable by tempo so that you can do them for particular massages, and then make sure that each room has its particular environment that we can try and curate for. And that's something we're looking to build in. And then we built our own streaming platform, and we made sure it was affordable, so it was a similar cost to a personal streaming service, because that way it should be affordable to everyone for correctly licensed music with something which is curated for specifically the spas.
This is such a world of difference from what we've had in the past, Freddie, and I'm sure you know. Yeah, I've been in the spa industry a long time. We always played music in the room. The method or the music was never consistent. I've been in situations where we let the technician select the music and they played it on their device. I know in the past, I have curated playlists by style of music for treatment rooms. We used to buy the little iPod remote and the little speaker and put it on. But again, there's always a licensing issue. And to be honest, it's really a lot of work, because I'm not a musician, and I make a playlist that I think is nice, and maybe it has 60 songs on it, which seems like so many, right? But when you're the therapist in the room hour after hour, that is not that many songs. And you're tearing your hair out by hour 3 because you're hearing the same thing again. So you're right. We really are ripe for sort of an updating in this realm.
That's it. And you quite correctly point out, actually, the other method is, and it's still used quite prevalently across the spa industry, is CDs. They're still used, same CDs day in, day out. And if you're the therapist, oh God, it gets boring. You need a little bit of change. Not that again. So, you're right. There has to be a better solution, and certainly we're working to try and achieve that with the spa industry, and we're very fortunate to be Universal Companies partners in this, and they've agreed for us to be their music partner, and hopefully that means that we get to enter the spa world and enter with a bit of a bang. So we're very, very excited for it, and hopefully the main benefit is going to be the end user, because that's what really matters. It's making sure that end user experience is as good as possible. So yeah, very, very excited for it.
Well, we're excited to have it. I mean, the CD, that's so funny you say that. We used to enjoy having the CDs because we could retail them. The guests might come out and say, I really like that music. But I mean, was that enough to offset all the other drawbacks? I don't think so. So this is a new world. We have companies like yours. Can you walk us through how it will work if I'm a spa and I have a subscription? For instance, do I subscribe to only one of the 5 moon phases or all of them? How long are the lists? Like, tell me how you see it working.
Sure. So what we have at the moment is we're right about to finish building our streaming platform. I keep saying that, touch wood, because it's in its snagging phase, which the whole purpose of is to farm out more problems. So if we achieve that phase, then we're done. But in the next couple of weeks or so, we should have this portal live. We're looking to onboard our first couple of spa clients to make sure that we can test it with them, and they're sort of partners who are going to come in at an early level. But the way it functions is an annual subscription of $250 per annum.
For $250, that was?
$250 per annum.
Okay.
And then if you have additional locations, you can get it all correctly licensed for an additional $100 per location after the initial use. And within that subscription, you get unlimited access to all the music on there. And we program about 10 key categories of music. If you go on myndstreamspa.com, which is, as Lisa mentioned before, mind with a Y, spa.com, then you'll find towards the bottom all the categories of music that we defined, be it, massage with music, to energetic, which has a bit more of a sort of modern contemporary style. You've got the more classical ambient music, and we have curators in this in our business who are constantly looking to purpose our catalogs in order to improve those playlists, keep them fresh, update them. I mean, we have about 5,000 tracks to start with, which we're building in, and those 5,000 tracks run for quite a few hours. It certainly won't get boring in a hurry. But one of the things which we really say, and particularly is important to us, we want to partner with the spa industry. So if there's particular types of music that people are looking for that we want, we'll go write it. We know all the composers in the game. We're very invested in making music a key component of spa therapies going forward, and so we want to make the right music and test it with our users and with those who get involved. So that's pretty much it. The initial subscription fee is a per annum subscription to essentially be a partner of ours, and with that partnership you get access to the portal, the music, and also our curation services.
It's really excellent to have more than one option, because we can't just play one type of music throughout the spa. I mean, that was the way it started, right? When we had wired sound systems and we would play, what new age spa music, I'm going back to the late 80s, throughout the spa, but you'd have your front desk staff falling asleep by lunchtime. It was too relaxing for them. And it doesn't promote shopping, right? It's not energetic. So then we said, oh, well, we need 2 zones, right? There's one for the front and the retail reception, and then there's one for the spa. And that we were very sophisticated then, 2 zones of new age music, one maybe a little more downbeat than the other. But now it's all about personalization, and clients want what they want. And I really like to create playlists for the spa where the guests can select from world music or jazz or new age or nature sound or whatever, whatever appeals to them. And I really like your approach of the purpose, right? Do you want to relax? Do you want to focus? Do you want to sleep better? And we have music that promotes that specific thing. Are these playlists like of a certain length, or how will that work in the treatment room, or do they just play round and round?
Varies depending on how you like to interact with music as well. So we can create, and we have created, certain music for particular therapies. So for instance, if you're offering one very particular type of therapy and you want music to service that particular type of therapy, we would curate that particular type of therapy, and we would make sure that there is that properly sequenced 1 hour. It takes on a journey. The difficulty with that is then that person who is performing the therapy may get a little bit bored. So maybe it's something that we would look to refresh on a relatively regular basis. Again, this is part of that whole partnership feedback situation. We would want to grow it with you. Currently, the way we set it up is we're ingesting our catalog into different playlists. We're putting it into at different points to keep it a little bit fresh. And as we begin to grow, and get more clients on a more global footprint, we want to create music that is culturally relevant to them. So we don't want to just focus on only our American Western New Age artists. We want to bring in, we have one of the leading YouTube channels in mood music called Yellow Brick Cinema. That's one of our distribution channels, and it's based in South Africa, and it has an incredible heritage of showcasing some of the South African culture. And we want to bring in some African musicians.
Love African music.
Yeah, it's awesome. It can be incredibly therapeutic. And again, so as you say, world music and giving people more choice and all these sort of things. So, these are all frontline A&R initiatives that we're working on at every moment. So I'm hoping that people will grow with us and help us with requests and directions, and we'll be able to service them in due course. But certainly the initial setup is we have one of the highest quality and best production value catalogs of ambient and mood music in a variety of styles, and we've playlisted them in a particular way and sequenced them very much with intention for complementing various different formats of the spa journey. And currently it's being built into a web-based platform. So any website, we've got anything with website connectivity and then a speaker you could play it to. And as we grow, we'll get more sophisticated and potentially build out some partnerships and get it so that it has a little bit more oomph to it. But as I say, we're right at the beginning of this journey. We're breaking into this market, so hopefully people will grow with us.
I'm sure they will. I know that you're a very learned person, but you are not a neuroscientist, as far as I know. Can you speak at all to the what actually happens in the brain from music?
I can speak a little bit to it as someone who's read about it, but I tend to prefer to let those who we work with speak about it, those who actually are conducting the research and really understand it. Because I hate to pass off or get anything wrong. So I mean, the basics are that music
just the
basics.
Yeah,
it has an incredible ability to encourage certain elements in the brain. So memory retention. I'm working with a lot of incredible music therapists at the moment here, both in the American Music Therapy Association and the British Association for Music Therapy, who are leading researchers in how music can impact those with dementia and various forms of Alzheimer's. And so there's a lot of studies going at the moment about memory retention, how music can be used to connect for families with those with dementia. I mean, you may have seen there was a viral video which went absolutely crazy a couple of years ago of a dementia patient who crippled really with an inability to come out of the shell. You could see him; he was physically curled over, and then they put this headset on him. His family put this headset on him, which had music from back in his day when he used to go out dancing, and it was like this ragtag music, and it was really fun. And his eyes just all of a sudden just went like that, just completely opened up, and he just came out of his shell and he started dancing along and singing.
That's wonderful.
Perfect, just sang. And when you look at something like that, someone who's unable to speak, to make eye contact, looks like they're completely closed off, to come alive through music it's incredible. So anyways, I'm a story to represent some of the work going behind it, but there's a whole bunch of music therapists that we're working with who are specifically focusing on understanding why that happens, and working on developing more methods to develop for better music to unlock it going forward. Another one that I'm working closely with is music therapists for particular neurotypes. So autism predominantly is one. Again, non-verbal autistic individuals, hugely reliant on music. I mean, music is one of the first forms of language of any sort. It's one of the ways that people connect in the first instance, and it is just incredible seeing how music can impact those who are severe on the autistic spectrum, and how it can be a valuable asset to those, well, to everyone, but also those who are more mild on the autistic spectrum. So working with some of those music therapists, one of the things that we're looking to create at the moment, and right in the beginning stages of doing this with our music therapist experts, is building specific reset programs for particular neurotypes to reset and refocus and re-energize in different environments, particularly corporate environments. It is shocking how underemployed autistic individuals are. I think the figure is something like staggering, like 18% of autism, those who have autism in the UK are currently in employment, which is just drastically low. And we were working with some partners, some incredible partners, to try and increase inclusivity and help recruit those with autism at the moment into corporate environments. But in order to do that and to get the best out of those with autism, because they can be an incredible asset to any business, but they have to be supported in the right way, much like everyone does, with different things, different ways, but they have to be supported. And so we're building these reset programs using music, which in 10 to 20 minutes, you can listen to some music and you can refocus in a way, and it's specifically built for the way that those with autism process. And the different types of music work better for different neurotypes. And so we've got composers who are specialists in designing music for focus, working with music therapists who are specialists in creating music therapy for those with autism, put them in a big melting pot, and hopefully something very valuable comes out of it.
Amazing that all this is going on, right? The casual listener just hears music and says, I like it, I don't, the beat moves me. As we grew up, we had popular music. And now when I listen to the lyrics, I think that doesn't make any sense at all. What drugs were they on in the 70s and the 80s? But, that wasn't the hook. It was the music itself. And it does seem to connect to some deeper part of your brain. Those auditory memories, come back. We've all been in that situation where you're in a car with friends and you're all the same age and a song comes on the radio and you all just start singing or remembering it. And I marvel at the power that music has to touch us so deeply, even without us cultivating that.
It's so powerful and so true. It is a wonderful thing. I mean, I was asked recently what I think the biggest wellness innovation is at the moment. And there's so many great things that so many people are working on. And of course, I am exceptionally biased. But I do believe that music is one of the greatest wellness innovations, not because it's unbelievably innovative as a thing, but because it is so prevalent. It is it's there for everyone. It's already embedded in everyone's lives. And if you're talking about a way to unlock wellness for everyone, what better way to do it than through music? And all you have to do is just change the perspective, make people understand that they can rely on it, that it is genuinely impactful, and that it can be a preventative healthcare tool as opposed to just something to play in the car and that's kind of it. It's almost the packaging of music, the format of music, the understanding that the user has going into it, that actually I'm going to put this on mindfully, and for the next 10, 15 minutes, it will help me. And it can completely change the way that music can resonate. And it's an incredible thing. So for me, it is by far and away the most exciting innovation out there, because it has the power to provide wellness accessibility for all. And that is truly incredible.
Well, it does touch everyone for sure. I mean, no matter where you grew up in the world or your age, there is some kind of music that touches you. And I really applaud your efforts to bring it to the mainstream. So let's think ahead. Next year, lots of spas are using Myndstream and cultivating perfect playlists. If a consumer comes out of a treatment and says, oh, I really like that music, is there a venue for them to also have access on the consumer side?
Absolutely. We have, so I would say currently 95% of our income comes from consumer. So we are very much at the moment, consumer focused business. And that 95% of our income comes from 5 places: Apple, Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, and Pandora are the top 5 payers and performers. And that's because if you have any of those subscriptions, or if you are happy listening to some ads on something like YouTube, you can access our music by typing in Myndstream, and there it is for you. So certainly we see there being an opportunity to convert more consumers going through the SPA environment, and we're building particular YouTube strategies at the moment in order to further engage the consumer after they've left the SPA environment, and that's something we would love to work with any SPA on as we move forward. Is there a way that they would want to, let's say, with this YouTube channel we have, this Yellow Brick Cinema channel, we have 6 million subscribers on that channel, and all of them are key wellness enthusiasts, and they're at the right demographic to come to a SPA environment, and we have the ability to build sub channels within this system, and for them to earn at a very high ad rate because we're tier A preferred partners with YouTube. We could potentially build channels specifically for SPA consumers, whereby we have a 20-minute pre-massage music interaction with particular guided elements from therapists, where they get ready to come in and be properly relaxed, and then a 20-minute wind down post. And we can have that, we could do that as a branded component with a SPA. We could build in music that they can listen to afterwards. We can elongate the touch point of the SPA interaction with the consumer, so that they can enjoy it for longer and get the most out of it. In an important point, I know one of the main focus points for a lot of SPAs at the moment is autonomous care, as it were, autonomous therapy. How can you help provide more consumers with more support at home? How can you do it without having to always rely on therapists to be there? Well, we have an incredible a digital infrastructure, because that's where we come from. We're set up to be consumed digitally. That's what we've done for years, and we have an incredible platform and a footprint already. And we hope, through partnering with our SPAs as we move in, we're combining the best of both worlds. We come from, we're under no illusions. We're new to this wellness world. We've been in it for a few years, and thankfully we have some incredible partners who are helping us get to know it and really understanding it. And one thing I will say, and I always say this, I think our biggest strength is that we know we don't know everything. We rely on others. We know, you probably will, thinking back to how I answered the question on the science of music, I'm very careful to not say anything too sciencey, because I'm not a scientist. I don't have the background. I don't have the expertise. However, I'm very aware of that. So I do partnership deals with the right music therapists, those who are really credible, who are really well trained, to ensure that the music output for our consumers is as high quality as possible, because that's the number one priority. So as we move into this wellness world, as we continue to expand our presence and really try and align our values and our missions, I'm excited because we come with complementary skill sets. The wellness world already has an incredible ability to relax people. It has an incredible solution to the burgeoning anxiety crisis and mental health crises that we're all going through. What I believe the wellness world needs now is really accessible distribution channels that allow them to take those key properties and deliver it to as many consumers as possible, as accessibly as possible. And I think coming together, we can actually achieve a lot of that. So I think it's very exciting.
I agree. And I love your outlook and your enthusiasm, Freddie. And I think it's great coming from someone that's a little younger than, say, myself. I mean, you gave some statistics at the Global Wellness Summit about the amount of anxiety that millennials feel, or Gen Z, and they use music to help relieve that stress, and it works. And now we had the pandemic. Do you think that maybe has speeded up the effectiveness of what you're trying to do, the reception for music as a mental health tool?
Well, one thing for sure, it's accelerated the need for it. That's absolutely definite. I mean, people have never been in such a consistent need for support. And thankfully, music has a place because a lot of people can just sort of put it on and feel a little bit better. And certainly, I think people are getting to know that. I mean, we've seen it in a lot of the stream count numbers that we've had. I mean, I mentioned before the number of 400% growth. A lot of that has come through the pandemic and as a result of the pandemic. So, we've seen how our music has been relied upon. Our priority as we go into the next phase of our journey and development is ensuring that the creative is as good as we can make it. So we're working with as many researchers as we can. We're involved in studies. We're doing all of that good hard work on the front end to ensure that the consumer has access to best quality music. One of the hardest things about the industry and about my job particularly is how competitive music is. I mean, you go on Spotify now and you type in sleep music, you are going to be hit by thousands of tracks. The problem is, as the end consumer, you have no way to differentiate between track A and track B. Track A, for instance, one of our main artists who I mentioned the story of at the Boston Global Wellness Summit, a chap named Chuck Wild, who goes under the name Liquid Mind. Incredible story, incredible musician, and extreme care and detail that he puts into every track. I mean, every single album he puts out, it takes 9 months to record. He listens to 50 to 60 odd times to get the mix absolutely right. He's constantly involved in various different research studies to understand the physiological impact of his music. He's doing one right now with UC San Diego, and he's had thousands of incredible testimonials about the value of his music to other people. And each track is purpose built to help people sleep. He's a sleep musician, and that's what he does. And he's done it for 30 odd years as the refining his art. And now he's really incorporating the science to really maximize it and take it to the next level. On the other side, track B could be a 30-second stream by a particular music business that's put up there in order to ensure that they get as much stream count as they possibly can, because 30 seconds is the minimum amount of stream time you can get to be registered as a stream on Spotify. And that gets them paid a royalty. And track A and track B get paid the same amount on the back end, the same accessibility to the front end. They'll both be branded as sleep music. They'll probably both use similar pastel colors. It's so hard to differentiate. So from my side, the experience the user has based on their selection of track A and track B, it is completely different. It's worlds apart. If you get the thing right and you get the right property, and this is a passion point of mine, if you start looking at music as healthcare, you don't just go off the peg and just say, oh, track A, track B, or I'll take what I get and see what happens. Like a little bit of a lottery. You do the work, you do the research, you make sure that you're getting the best quality stuff possible. And so we're doing that right now. We're trying to find as many ways to provide the credibility to our music as we possibly can, so that then the end consumer can find it much easier to differentiate. Okay, I know that if I go to Myndstream, it's a trusted resource that is genuinely going to help me, as opposed to feeling a little bit lost trying to search through. And it's a process. And I'm not saying for a minute that we're the only ones out there who take this focused approach on getting it right from the research side. There are lots of companies out there where you will find good quality musical practices, and you can absolutely go through and if you do some digging as the end user, you'll find great tracks, you'll find great albums, which are curated with that same level of discipline and diligence that Liquid Mind puts into his music. And I would encourage anyone to listen to those over that infamous track B. So our whole goal is just to try and make more of those track A's. That's the plan.
No, it was great to hear your story about Chuck Wild and Liquid Mind. I mean, I can remember taking Liquid Mind CDs with me on long plane rides 15, 20 years ago, because they really did help you sleep. So I love what you're doing, Freddie, and the industry will. We need quality and thoughtful presentation because what we sell is all about experience, and music is a big component of that. As we've said throughout this talk. Imagine getting a massage or a facial or a body treatment in a room that's completely silent. And some people may prefer that, but I think the vast majority of clients are benefited by having a musical soundtrack to that great body experience. So thank you again for joining us. It's Myndstream, myndstream.com, $250 a year for access to this amazing catalog. I mean, that's a no-brainer for sure. And we're anxious to see how you develop this business, Freddie.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure.